Villa were beaten 1-0 at home by West Ham. Anton, I think lots of Aston Villa fans now are seriously starting to question Steven Gerrard and whether he is the long-term answer for that job. You look at his record now, 15 defeats in 31 games in the Premier League. You compare that to Scotland, he only lost 18 of 118 games at Rangers. I guess that just shows the step up in quality.
Yeah, definitely. I think him, when he's in Scotland with Rangers, he's one of the best too, you know, in terms of the club that he's at. And the likelihood is they're going to win every week up there. You're now in a league now with Aston Villa where you're not one of the top two. And at times everyone beats everyone in the Premier League, as we're seeing. So it's going to be hard for him. Steven Gerrard is someone who's a winner. He's someone, as we saw as a player, his full focus and everything he does Monday to Friday is to win the game on a Saturday. That'll be the same as him as a manager, and it will be hurting him, the fact that they're not getting the results. As we've heard today from David Moyes, said it was a close game, who's the opposition manager, said it was a close game. They just couldn't get the win. Obviously, I'm happy because West Ham got the win, but if he gets time, I'm sure he'll be able to turn it around. It's just whether he gets the time to do it. And as we see now in football, time isn't given to managers because of the money that's in football at the moment. Because the money is astronomical in football, you don't get time. The prize is to stay in the Premier League. If you don't stay in the Premier League, then you lose a lot of money as a business. And this is why managers do not get the time that they may deserve.
Before we hear from Steven Gerrard, he's been speaking to our own Tom Ross. I've got a text here from an Aston Villa supporting friend of mine. Now, he isn't usually particularly reactionary. Full-time today, he texted me and said, Gerrard has lost it. 4 games in, doesn't know his best team, doesn't know his best formation. A 4th centre-half partnership today as well. Talks a good game, though. I mean, that is quite scathing from an Aston Villa fan about Steven Gerrard.
I mean, they're going to feel this way. You know, they're not picking up the results. All supporters feel that way when you keep losing. And to chop and change the team, yeah, you need to find a balance. You need to find the right first 11, make the right substitutions. Everyone's going to say that. He needs to pick up some results. It don't get any easier. I think Arsenal next, then Manchester City. So it's looking a tough time for Steven Gerrard at the moment. And like Anton said, I'd like to see him given time. It was a poor game.
He's had
today.
10 months.
He has. What I mean is time this season. I'd like to see him. I say in terms of every manager, I'd like to see him till the end of the transfer window and then 5 games after, because that's your team. You've kind of picked that team. You've probably not got everyone you want through the door, but you've got some players in. There's a lot of noise coming out of Aston Villa in terms of the captaincy change. That hasn't helped, but going so public over that. But it's not as big deal as it's made out, and we'll obviously get into that a little bit more later in terms of captaincy. But, you know, end of the transfer window, 5 games after, if it's still as poor as it is now, then, you know, Aston Villa have got some decisions to make.
James, the Aston Villa fan, has got in touch via the talkSPORT Twitter account. He says, Gerrard, an utter disgrace, needs to leave the club now. Proud history, no future under him. I think one of the most alarming aspects, if you're a Villa fan, is you look at their start to the season, they haven't really played anyone of any substance yet. They went to Bournemouth on the opening day and got
How bad's that
beaten there.
Now?
You look at the batterings Bournemouth have taken since then.
The next 2 as well, Arsenal then Man City. Wow. So they're now going to play teams who are challenging for the league.
Well, I was going to say, they limped past Everton. Everton obviously have made a struggling start to the season. Well beaten at Crystal Palace. And well beaten in the second half by West Ham today. Simon, the Villa fan, has texted 81089. He says, never been one to overreact and jump on manager out hype, but I'm seeing no improvement under Stevie G compared to Dean Smith. And Stevie G has better players and the full pre-season he wanted. Villa owners mean business. Be surprised if he lasts the season. Lots of Aston Villa fans getting in touch. 03717 223344 is the number. We'll be going to the phone lines very shortly. Anton, what did you make of what Steven Gerrard had to say? They're really putting it on his players, telling them he wants them to roll up their sleeves and get Aston Villa out of this slump.
I think that's how he was as a player. You know, he demanded the best from his teammates, and he's going to do that as a manager. I don't think there's anything wrong with him saying, I'm asking the players, are they going to roll their sleeves up? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, you know. And I think it's the same with the captaincy. We were talking off air, Darren. I think it's the same as the captaincy. Yeah, it might be people are struggling to understand why it's been made public, but he's challenging Tyrone Mings does he? Because he wants to see the best Tyrone possible Mings that he can get. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. He's doing the same with the players. Yep. He's asking the players, what do you want to do? Do you want to sink or do you want to swim?
Yep. The only issue that arises, Crookie, in this situation, if Steven Gerrard isn't saying this in the dressing room, if he isn't saying this to the players, if he hasn't pulled Tyrone Mings to one side, which we're all led to believe he did, I've no doubt that he's saying the same things to the players themselves. He's an honest player. We see he's an honest guy. He was an honest player. We've seen that, as you said earlier. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He wants to win. This is hurting him, clearly.
Of course.
And the supporters are it's only going to get worse, particularly if they lose to Arsenal, if they lose to Man City. But what better opportunity to turn it? What better opportunity to get the supporters back on side against teams like the teams we've just mentioned?
Why should he be afforded the time this season that Dean Smith, a local boy, Aston Villa fan as a kid, took the club into the Premier League? Why does Steven Gerrard deserve the time to turn it around when Dean Smith didn't get that opportunity last season?
When did Dean Smith get sacked? When was it?
I think it was October.
So he got his players in and he got a bit of time.
Dean Smith had a lot of games, a lot more games than Steven Gerrard had, obviously. He had a lot more success with Aston Villa. And
didn't have as much money.
No, but it started to slide and they got rid of him, of course. But Steven Gerrard, okay, he took over Rangers, done very well, but he's still learning the English game in terms of management in the English game. So
has he been over-promoted? Did he have the credentials to get that job in the first place?
As a player, yes. As a name,
not all players make good managers.
Of course they don't, but the credentials that you mentioned is because of his playing career. That's why, and we've seen with Frank Lampard as well, they get pushed into a management job very quickly because what they've done as a player. So credentials probably only as a player, yes, but he's still learning. He's still learning the English way in terms of management. So that's probably why he's given a lot more time than others would be.
Gerrard isn't a tactician. He's a figurehead. He's a man with good chat but no clue. Mick Beale was always the man behind the Gerrard mask. That's from Ryan, the Rangers fan. I think he's made some good points there because I do think losing Mick Beale, wanted to go out and be a manager at Queen's Park Rangers, I do think that has caused Steven Gerrard a problem.